Chapter 18. Pushing through Brancott. Carew and her merry companions were currently on the verge of passing the border between Belmore and Brancott. Borders here weren't as big a deal as they were back on Earth, seeing as countries didn't have the manpower or the funds to watch the entirety of their vast borders. Hell, if you went off the beaten path through the forest or over the mountains or something, you could cross over into other countries all you liked. There weren't many people who actually went through with that option, however. Why? Simply because they could still get in normally without doing so. There were no passports or photo IDs in this world. Everything was on paper, so making forgeries was a cinch. You could just swipe a person's documents and pass them off to the guards, no sweat. It wasn't like they had any way of telling if you were the real deal or just faking it. Border checkpoints were only called that in name alone. In reality, they were just small guardhouses whose main function was to take a fee from any wagons that passed by them in accordance with how much they were carrying. Wagons couldn't pass through forests or mountains, so their only choice was to stick to the main road. Anyone on horseback or foot didn't have to pay the fees for things they brought across, since, if they did, smaller merchants wouldn't be able to afford taking their wares across. More evil business practices would run rampant in that case. Carew and her group were on horseback and had barely any luggage between them. Carew had already thrown the heavier and more annoying bits of her stuff inside her item box anyway. Basically, they had a free pass for going across country borders. Or, that's how it should have been, at least. Right this way, please. After Carew and the others tried passing through the border, they were suddenly stopped by a soldier and led to a small guardhouse. You must be the angel and her companions, I assume? We shall prepare a carriage to guide you to the capital post-haste, so please wait here and relax in the meantime. Why did it turn out like this? Carew screamed on the inside. Before leaving Brancott, Carew had made sure to say goodbye to her friends and everyone else who helped her, as well as everyone else who would be affected by her leaving. If she didn't, who knew what sort of uproar the capital would be in? Before they could do anything to stop her or beg in tears for her to stay, she'd already left on her journey. If they weren't going by boat, then the only way to reach the mainland would have to be through Brancott. However, there was a certain thing lurking in Brancott. Fernand, the Crown Prince. Carew wanted to push her way through Brancott before word of her journey reached there, since things could get really annoying really fast if they got held up there. With that in mind, she wanted to make it through Brancott as fast as possible before word traveled to the aristocracy or the royal family. It was all but guaranteed Fernand would have assigned a spy to keep track of her whereabouts. When that spy caught wind of Carew's journey, instead of using messengers on horseback, they didn't hesitate to send a message through the channels normally used for national emergencies. The royal palace was in an uproar over the news, of course. Carew, the personal friend of the goddess, was coming to Brancott, and they couldn't let this chance go to waste. There was absolutely no chance she could be heading the opposite direction. The only things to be found there were steep mountain ranges, and further beyond that the Alago Empire. If she were setting out on a trip from Belmore, then she had to be heading toward the mainland, and to get there, she'd have to pass through Brancott. Thus, the royal court, aristocrats, and of course, the prince, were all chomping at the bit to make the most of this opportunity. They'd placed carriages and elite guards all along the roads into the kingdom to secure her the moment she entered the country. Oh boy, this doesn't look good. Now what? If they haul me off to the palace, they'd start questioning me and asking for all sorts of things. Since this is that arrogant, selfish prince we're talking about, it was totally possible he'd take the people hostage at the restaurant I used to work at just to make demands of me. That, or they might be suspicious I'm actually the same Carew and try to expose me for who I really am. Oh crap, oh crap, oh crap. But this was one of the border guards. If I tried to make a break for it, then of course he'd send people to come after me. If they caught us, they could charge us with illegally crossing the border, and who knows what they'd do to us after that. Should we off him, Carew? Emil offered, casually suggesting murder. I'd told Emil to only refer to me as casually as possible right before we left on this trip. It would only attract attention to us if a 16-year-old like him was acting incredibly respectful toward me, especially when I only looked to be around 12. Belle had just turned 12 and was already a little bit bigger than me. Like her height and her chest. Alright, sorry. I was trying to make it seem less worse for me. It wasn't just a little, but a whole lot bigger. We were pretending Belle was older than I was and had made her practice being more casual around me as well. After all those years together, it was a force of habit of hers to keep calling me her big sister, after all. But considering the situation, it wouldn't be bad to have me be the older one here, since it wouldn't be all that strange for me to be this small if I were a year or two older than her. If the gap between us was just going to keep on getting bigger, though, then it'd eventually get suspicious. That's why I thought it'd be a better idea to have her be the older one from the beginning. But I guess now wasn't the time to be thinking about all that. No offing anyone. I'll try to think of something, so keep cool for now. Got it. After being led into the guardhouse and offered to take a seat, the guard brought out wooden cups filled with wine for everyone. Usually a dinky little guardhouse like this should only have some lukewarm water at best, so they probably had this ready beforehand on the chance that I happened to come this way. I didn't want to let it go to waste, so I made sure to at least take a sip. Yeah, that's lukewarm red wine, all right. Room temperature would probably be more accurate. If anyone in Japan proudly served you a glass of room temperature wine, though, it'd be pretty hard to be happy about, and the same went for here. Their room temperature was actually pretty dang warm, but as they didn't really have a way to keep it chilled here, I wasn't going to complain. So, what seems to be the problem? Oh, no problems here. I received orders from the king to give you a warm welcome should you enter our kingdom, and to have you escorted to the royal palace immediately, the man explained. It appeared he was no ordinary guard, but a slightly higher-ranking soldier posted here to lead me to the palace. What makes you think I'm Kaoru? All the higher-ranking soldiers of our country were present to see you during the proceedings, and Belmore and committed your appearance to memory. Our regular soldiers merely memorized what you look like after studying all manner of portraits of you. Yeah. What the hell is that about? So you're not gonna just let me go, is that it? Just how tenacious are you, man? Are you a stalker or something? I was planning on playing dumb, but it looked like he was certain I was the Kaoru they were looking for. He was probably going to argue back if I denied it now, so my only choice was to give up and admit it. If I tried denying it and things got heated, my big brother, Roland, his fiancée Brancott, and my other brother, Emil, might try slicing and dicing their way out of this, especially when it came to Brancott. Things could get dicey real fast, literally. By the way, here was our current story. Roland was the oldest son of the family and engaged to Brancott, while Emil was the second oldest and had Belle as his fiancée. I was the oldest daughter of our makeshift family, of course. I could have made us all brothers and sisters, but that would have been plain weird to have the two couples flirting with each other when they were supposed to be related by blood. I didn't want any rumors floating around about us, so that was why I went with the current setup instead. I wanted to avoid rumors of brother and sister complexes among our group, thank you very much. Still, no matter how you sliced it, Roland looked like royalty, while Emil looked like the most common commoner you'd ever lay your eyes on. I was planning on explaining it away by saying Emil was the illegitimate child our father had with a maid who was raised like a commoner, but I was pretty sure it wouldn't really come up. It'd take a fairly reckless person to pry into a noble's family affairs. Anyway, our story was that Roland wanted to take a trip to another country while he was still young, and his brother from another mother, Emil, was there to accompany him, as well as their two fiancées. I was here as the chaperone to watch over the two couples. Based on my smooth skin and the other decidedly not commoner-like features about me, I was planning on saying I was the sheltered daughter of some lower-ranking aristocrat who was unwise to the ways of the world. That would also make it seem more natural for everyone to prioritize protecting me without raising any suspicions. What, you think that's pushing it? Look, don't worry about it. This is the kind of situation where they'd think we'd actually tell a more believable lie if we wanted to fool them, and that'll actually make our story even more credible. Sheesh, get off my back. Oh yeah, I wasn't calling Roland sir or anything on this trip either. I know he's the brother of a king, but he was the one who decided to tag along with me. I was just going to treat him like another one of my traveling companions. It'd be a pain in the butt to give him special treatment when everyone else was supposed to be acting more casual around each other. If we kept calling him sir all the time, people were bound to find out something was up eventually, though I made sure to ask him if it was alright first. Not like he could really say no to me, though. We've finished preparing a carriage for you, so if you will just follow me this way. The guard made to lead us somewhere, but I casually brushed him off. Oh, no thanks. Ed and the others would get jealous if we rode something being pulled by other horses. I guess we'll be off now. I stood up from my seat and the other four followed suit. Wait. Hold on a second, please. We ignored the panicking soldier as we left the guardhouse. We hopped on our horses once we were outside and set off once more. We'd already made sure to talk things over, with me declining his offer to be taken anywhere by carriage. Now they shouldn't be able to say we tried illegally forcing our way across the border. The checkpoint was in complete chaos because of this as we left it behind us. I wonder if that guy sent a messenger on ahead? I yelled to Roland over the sound of galloping horses. Yeah, I bet they already took off a while ago. Then how about we give them the slip? Let's do it. I figured the soldier from before would come chasing after us, the carriage he prepared for me included. But that would never be able to catch up with us, so it didn't really matter. We'd make it to the capital before the messenger arrived, finish what we needed to do, and get out of there before they could do anything about it. For that to happen, though, we'd need about a 12-hour head start. If we could just make it through the capital and speed along faster than their messenger horses, then no one would be able to keep up with us. Not only did we have Ed's family, but horses specially bred to be used by royalty. I even had healing potions. No problems there. Hi-ho, Silver, I shouted, trying to set the mood a little. Ed got mad at me. You're using that name again. Just what kind of horse are you cheating on me with, Missy? Sorry. It didn't take long for us to overtake someone we assumed to be a messenger, but it wasn't like we weren't expecting that. It was going to take them a good few days to reach the capital, so they had to keep to a certain pace to get there. They couldn't just keep pushing their horse as hard as they could, or else they'd just run it into the ground. It was possible they could have prepared other replacement horses to switch out every few hours or so, but that probably wasn't the case. They didn't know where I'd be coming from in the first place, and they also thought I'd be slowly trundling along in the carriage they prepared for me by now. The messenger stared at us in blank amazement as we passed him by. If he tried chasing after us now, his horse definitely wasn't going to make it without collapsing at some point. Thinking about it from his side, he might be in shock that it seemed like we were the ones reckless enough to push our horses this hard. No matter what happened, I doubted a common soldier would have enough cash on him to buy replacement horses he wasn't planning on getting in the first place. All he could do was focus on trying to reach the capital as fast as he could within his own means. He was most likely thinking we couldn't possibly keep up this pace either, and he'd be passing our exhausted horses in no time. He didn't once think this gap between us would keep getting wider as we got closer to the capital. It had gotten dark, so we started getting ready to set up camp. All I had to do was take out our tent, which was already put together, from my item box, so it was over in an instant. We were traveling light since we only packed the essentials, and we could keep pushing on until it was too dark to press onward since it took no time for us to get our camp gear ready. The messenger, on the other hand, would have to stop at a town to take care of his horse and rest for the night, which meant the distance between us was only going to get larger. Horses needed so much water and care, so pushing them to the brink and leaving them outside to set up camp was nigh impossible if you didn't have cheat powers, that is. At this rate, keeping our 12-hour lead should be a piece of cake, and I wanted to put that time to use when we were in the capital. At first, I was just planning on being as stealthy as possible getting into Aras, so I hadn't really been concerned with a time limit. I'd sneak and then sneak back out. Easy. But now that we were racing against the messenger before he could tell the country I'd arrived, my plans had changed to charging through as fast as possible. Ed and the others were practically jumping for joy at all the feed, apples, corn, sugar cubes, and potions I gave them, but then I received this comment. "Excuse me, Kaoru? Could you not give my daughter so many sugar cubes, Now Ed's old mare was getting mad at me. Leaving the messenger in our dust long ago, we finally arrived in Aras, the capital of Brancott. There were plenty of people who knew me from back when I lived and worked here as a waitress, but even if we ran into them, it still wouldn't be a problem in the slightest. If we ran into someone who knew I was the friend of the goddess, though, that was when I'd be in trouble. There were people who happened to catch a glimpse of me during the peace talks in Balmoral. According to that guard at the border, there were plenty of other soldiers who'd been ordered to memorize what I looked like. That was why I decided to go ahead and change my hair and eye color again and have everyone surround me so I wouldn't stand out as much. Despite that, no one in my party so much as batted an eye at my sudden transformation. To them, I wasn't the friend of the goddess. Everyone else knew me as but a goddess from another world. There was only one place I wanted to go here in the capital. After hitching Ed and the other horses up, I used another potion to change my hair and eye color before opening up the doors. Hey everyone, long time no see. Kaoru. That's right, I was back at the Big Belly Bistro, the restaurant I once worked at as a waitress and ran my own counseling service. Kaoru. The landlord came running out of the kitchen after hearing everyone call my name, throwing her arms around me and squeezing tight. I can't breathe. You were okay after all. We were all so worried for you when we heard you disappeared after people saw you were hurt. It must have been so hard for you, and you haven't even grown one bit since then. Oof. Hitting me right where it hurts. Kaoru. The next person to come running over to give me a big hug was Amy. You're still working here? Shouldn't it be about time for you to move on, girl? Thank goodness. Thank goodness, she cried repeatedly, tears of joy streaming down her face. Hey, where's Agatha? She went off and got married to one of our merchant regulars. Amy pouted. He only had a tiny business at first, but the moment he married Agatha, it suddenly took off. Now her new father-in-law takes to calling her the gift of the goddess. She even went on to have 2 beautiful baby boys. She couldn't get any happier if she tried. TCH. Ah. I know how you feel, Amy. I know that feeling so much it hurts. As I stewed in my feelings of simultaneous empathy and jealousy, the door to the restaurant suddenly flew open. Kaoru. Speak of the devil, Agatha came running inside, tears welling up in her eyes. It seemed like one of the customers had the good sense to let her know I was here. Apparently, her new family basically lived next door. She may be a mother of 2 children, but she'll always be the cute little Agatha I remember working alongside as a fellow waitress. That said, she was a married woman, so I almost felt like I should be adding a Mrs. in front of her name or something. Kaoru, I heard about your injuries. Are you all fixed now? Oh, yeah? I got to take a swig of this amazing medicine, the tears of the goddess, and that patched me up good as new. Thank goodness. I tried putting all the things you told us about into practice at my husband's company after I got married. When I did, we got a huge surge of customers, and our business really took off. Even now, the trade guild still calls me things like the ideal wife for a businessman, and I have all this influence at the gatherings between all the merchants' wives, and... Oh, you know what, never mind. Yeah, I kinda figured that's what happened. Agatha and Amy had overheard the advice I gave customers when I ran my consultation service, and I made sure to tell them the essentials of the Japanese service industry on our breaks and stuff. They both should have had an even playing field since they learned the same things from me, but I wonder how Amy and Agatha's situations ended up so different. It was a mystery. Afterward, I introduced Roland and the others as my traveling companions. I had a great time chatting with the restaurant staff and the regular customers here. Fran had left to find us an inn sometime in the middle of it all, so that meant I had a free pass to Smashville, population me. Or that's what I thought, but they wouldn't let me have alcohol, saying kids drinking booze was a bad thing. I already looked like this 4.5 years ago, people. I was way over 15 now, which meant I was a proper adult. Everyone pretended to act surprised, but they just ended up handing me juice anyway. Damn it. Really, guys? Roland and the others only sipped on their tea, saying they weren't foolish enough to drink alcohol smack dab in the center of enemy territory. Oh yeah, I guess this is enemy territory for them.